Ever catch yourself looking at something like, say, your phone and thinking, how did anyone even dream this thing up? Seriously, the geography of it alone is mind-blowing. Parts from all over, put together perfectly, and it connects us across, like, continents. And that's just a glimpse of what we're getting into today.
Oh, is that right?
You bet. Our listener sent in this stack of lesson plans straight from a technical high school in Taiwan. They're all in Chinese, so, we're handling the translation. But the really cool part, we're pulling out these golden nuggets about using geography to teach innovation.
Interesting. See, I always find it fascinating how different cultures approach education, especially when it comes to something like geography, which can be taught in so many ways.
Right, and these lesson plans.
Yeah.
Totally flipping the script.
How so?
Instead of memorizing, like, capitals and rivers, they're using geography as a tool.
A tool for?
Understanding how things are made, where stuff comes from, and how Taiwan, being an island, has had to get seriously creative with resources.
Ah, that makes sense. Limited resources often breed incredible innovation. You see that throughout history.
Exactly. And it's like they're weaving that whole necessity is the mother of invention thing right into the curriculum.
I like that. It's about connecting the dots between the physical environment and human ingenuity.
Yeah.
So what kind of innovative approaches are we talking about here?
Okay, so one that really jumped out, the smart machines on a smart island lesson.
Okay, smart machines tied to geography. I'm intrigued. What's the angle there?
So it zeroes in on machine tool manufacturing, which is huge E in Taiwan.
Workshop to the world, right? I've heard that phrase before.
Bingo. But here's the thing. They're not just cranking stuff out. This lesson dives into Industry 4.0.
Industry 4.0, that's the integration of digital tech, AI, automation, all that jazz into manufacturing, right?
You got it. Making things smarter, not just faster.
And they're teaching this at a high school level. That's impressive. So how does geography fit into all of this?
That's what's so cool. They're bringing in the local context. Students look at the history of manufacturing in their own communities.
Ah, I see. Grounding a global concept in a local context. Smart.
Exactly. How Taiwan's geography, being right there in Asia, has shaped its industries.
It suddenly becomes much more real and relevant for those students, doesn't it? It's not just some abstract concept in a textbook anymore. It's their story.
Totally. So they're not just learning about a trend. They're seeing how it plays out where they live, the challenges, the possibilities.
It becomes a bit more, this is our legacy. This is where we stand now. What can we do to shape the future? Love that.
Right. And it's not even just about the tech. It's about understanding the bigger picture of industry and economies and how geography is like this underlying force.
It's the stage on which everything else plays out. Always has been, really.
Okay, gotta admit, even just reading about this stuff has me looking at the world differently, seeing those connections.
That's the power of perspective, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that outside view to shake things up.
Speaking of which, there was one lesson plan that honestly had me scratching my head at first. From sugarcane to sustainability.
Oh, that one jumped out at me too.
Yeah.
Bit of an unexpected pairing, isn't it?
Right. Seemed totally unrelated at first,
Yeah.
but there's this whole other level.
It speaks to Taiwan's history, how they're dealing with modern environmental concerns. It's fascinating, really.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the connection?
So Taiwan, they used to be a massive sugar exporter, sugarcane everywhere. But over time, that industry, not so much.
What happened?
Bunch of factors, a lot of them tied to, you guessed it, geography.
Like what?
Global markets shifted. Other sugar-producing places popped up, the usual.
So what do you do when a chunk of your economy basically dries up?
You adapt. And that's where the sustainability part comes in. This lesson dives into the circular economy.
The circular economy. Remind me again how that works.
Basically, it's about minimizing waste and maximizing resources. Instead of the old take, make, dispose model, it's about reusing, repurposing, and turning what was once considered trash into valuable resources.
So they're finding new uses for sugarcane. Like what?
They're using it for biofuels, bioplastics, you name it.
Hold on, really? Sugarcane?
That's wild.
It's incredible, really. Taking something that was once just a byproduct and turning it into a valuable resource, all while minimizing waste and reducing their environmental impact.
And they're weaving that into the geography curriculum? How does that even work?
It's brilliant, really. They use it to explore the history of sugarcane in Taiwan.
Okay.
The geographic reasons it thrived there, and then bam, connect it to modern day issues like sustainability and this whole circular economy.
It's like they're saying, hey, here's this plant. right?
Yeah, seemingly simple, right?
But look at it through a geographic lens, and boom, you've got global trade, environmental impact, and innovative solutions.
It's a whole narrative woven into what at first glance seems like a simple plant. That's amazing.
It really highlights how geography is about so much more than just maps and locations. It's about understanding this complex dance between us, our environment, and how we can make smarter choices for the future.
You know, listening to you, it strikes me that these lesson plans aren't just about teaching facts.
Right.
They're about fostering this, mindset.
What kind of mindset?
One that's, essential for tackling the big challenges of right now, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The world is facing some complex issues, and we need people who can think differently, who can connect the dots and find innovative solutions.
It's not enough to be an expert in just one tiny thing anymore, right?
Exactly. You've got to be able to see the big picture, understand how systems interact, and be adaptable to change.
Which is what these Taiwanese lesson plans seem to be all about.
From what you've shared, it sounds like they're onto something really special.
It really makes you think about how much we miss when we stay stuck in our own lanes, you know? We separate subjects, but out in the real world, it's all connected.
Precisely. And that's what's so refreshing about these Taiwanese lesson plans. They're breaking down those walls and showing students what happens when you start connecting those dots.
Which brings us to our next case study, cars built for context. Now, I'll be honest, at first glance, I thought, okay, different cars are popular in different places, but I had no idea how deep this actually goes.
It's easy to take cars for granted, right? But they're a perfect example of how geography shapes design. Every little detail, from the engine to the safety features, it's all influenced by where that car is going to be driven.
So it's more than just sleek sports cars in Monaco. It's about practicality.
Exactly. A car in Monaco is going to have different needs than a car in, say, the Swiss Alps or the streets of Tokyo.
Okay, that makes sense. Form follows function, as they say. But I'm guessing the lesson plan goes a bit deeper.
Oh, absolutely. This lesson actually challenges students to think like car designers.
Wait, really?
They're given Taiwan's geography, the mountains, the climate, the typhoons, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And their task: design a car that's perfect for those conditions.
Hold up. High schoolers are designing cars.
It's about pushing them to think outside the box.
Yeah.
What kind of materials work best in a humid climate? How do you make a car that's both fuel efficient and powerful enough for those mountain roads? How do you balance safety with aerodynamics when typhoons are a regular thing?
Wow. My high school design projects were not that next level.
It speaks to the level of critical thinking they're fostering. It's not just about knowing facts. It's about applying that knowledge to real-world problems, coming up with solutions.
It's like saying, here's this island shaped by these specific forces. Now you get to use that understanding to shape the future of transportation.
Exactly. And by making it local, by rooting these challenges in the student's own backyard, it becomes so much more engaging. It's not just theoretical. It's their reality.
It's about making geography relevant to their lives.
Precisely.
You know, it's really striking me that a big theme in these lessons is empowerment. It's not just filling students with information, it's giving them the tools to understand and shape their world.
Absolutely. And that's what's so exciting about what we're seeing in education. There's this growing recognition that the challenges we're facing, climate change, resource scarcity, all of it, they require a new way of thinking.
Right. It's not enough to just be an expert in one narrow field anymore.
Exactly. You have to be able to connect the dots to see how everything fits together. And these Taiwanese lesson plans, they're doing just that. They're giving students the tools to be adaptable, engaged citizens of the world.
It makes me wish my geography classes had been this cool.
I think a lot of us can relate to that. But the good news is we are seeing a shift, right? There's this understanding that education shouldn't be about memorizing facts in isolation. It should be about sparking curiosity, encouraging critical thinking, and empowering students to become lifelong learners.
Okay, before we get too carried away, let's make sure we loop back to our listener. After all, they're the ones who sent in these amazing lesson plans.
Absolutely. It's clear they're already thinking deeply about these connections we're talking about between geography, innovation, education, all of it.
So as we head into our final takeaway section, let's keep them in mind. How can we help connect these insights back to their own lives, their work, make it relevant?
Great question. It's all about finding those tangible connections.
Going through these lesson plans, it really hits you that they're not just teaching about something, they're pointing to something much bigger.
It's that shift in thinking, isn't it?
Totally. It's like they've cracked the code on how to see the world differently.
It's about connections, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Every lesson, they're pushing students to make these links between things that, at first glance,
seem totally unrelated.
yeah, like what does sugarcane have to do with sustainability? But they make it click.
Because it's all part of a larger system.
And it's not just about knowing the facts, it's about what you do with that knowledge.
Becoming an active participant, not just a passive observer.
Right. Designing a car, rethinking an industry. It's empowering.
Especially in a world with, let's face it, some pretty big challenges ahead.
Climate change, resources, the works.
Exactly. We need people who can see the whole board,
Yeah.
not just their little corner of it.
And that's what these lessons do. They give you that wide-angle lens.
That's a great way to put it. Instead of just memorizing capitals and exports.
Which, don't get me wrong, is important.
Of course, foundational.
But it's like they're saying, okay, now that you've got the basics, let's use geography to understand everything.
Because it does touch everything, doesn't it?
It's the context for everything we do.
And once you start seeing the world through that lens,
You can't unsee it.
exactly, it
Yeah.
changes how you approach problems, how you innovate, how you move through the world.
So for our listener who sent these in,
Big shout out to them.
what's the big takeaway? What can they, or anyone, really take from this and actually use?
I think it's that permission to be curious, to look for those unexpected connections.
Because you never know where you'll find that spark of innovation.
It could be in a sugarcane field, it could be in the design of your car.
It could be in a high school lesson plan halfway across the world.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about this whole deep dive, right?
Yeah.
It's opened up these new ways of thinking about the world, about the future.
And who knows, maybe it'll spark an idea or two for our listeners as well.